Twitter is my most used social media. I practically get all my information on what's happening in the world from it. But it's also the place where I get rage baited so badly, I end up never wanting to open the app again. I get back on in like 10 minutes after that. Don't judge me. But why do we keep falling for the rage bait? Am I getting triggered by real people with real opinions, or am I just forming part of somebody's
engagement metrics?
So Twitter is a good place for everyone to come together to discuss different opinions that they might have with each other, but it's also filled with so many opinions that you will never ever agree with. I do believe that it's important that this town square mentality exists on the internet because there isn't another social media like Twitter where everyone can just come together and disagree and agree about certain opinions on life, politics, sports, you name it. And this comes with a problem, or a caveat, should I say, that the people who don't know what they're talking about shout the loudest on Twitter, dude. Those are usually the tweets that end up making it onto my homepage or my For You page or whatever the hell it's called these days. And this is where getting rage baited becomes almost unavoidable. I think the reason why we feel like we are seeing rage bait content everywhere on Twitter is because we don't usually see this much conversation happening in our daily lives. When you are at work or at home, it is basically impossible to have a discussion or a debate with hundreds of thousands of people. And on Twitter, it's normal for people to get into big group discussions and debates about things, but we are not used to them in everyday life. That is why we so easily fall into the trap of being rage baited by certain opinions. We simply aren't used to having these debates in real life with real people. Even when we do, it's maybe 1, 2, or 3. Not hundreds of people that you are quote unquote debating. From personal experience, I think what gets me even more upset when I've already been rage baited, I've fallen into the trap of whatever tweet I've just read, it's seeing more and more people agree with this person. It ends up making me even more upset because now I realize there are hundreds of people who think this way, a way that I obviously don't agree with. It really adds fuel to the fire when you see so many people agreeing with an opinion that you just cannot stand. This brings up 2 very important points on how you get rage baited. Number 1, you get rage baited simply because you don't agree with somebody's opinion. That is not good. 2, you get rage baited by someone who is intentionally trying to provoke you with an opinion they know you don't agree with. Now, these people are
dangerous characters.
So to go back on point number 1, where we simply get rage baited because we don't agree with somebody's opinion, I feel like Twitter has exposed this flaw, because it is a flaw within humanity that, if someone just has a different opinion that makes us upset. That's not good. It's really not good. And I think Twitter has exposed this flaw in a lot of us, because it happens to me. I can almost guarantee it's happened to you. And in my opinion, this flaw simply comes down to us having an ego, having a lot of pride. But yes, there are times where someone has an opinion that you believe is wrong, and objectively it is wrong and it is stupid. And I think in those cases, we just need to disengage, because if you know someone has a very, very terrible opinion on something, it's best to not even try and educate them, dude. If you know that this person is never going to change their opinion and it's so terrible, disengaging is like the best option. But if you are having a discussion with someone about a non-sensitive topic such as sports and gaming, being upset at the other person's opinion is just exposing our pride and ego that we have towards this topic, because admitting that this person might have a good point or we might be wrong is such a personal knock to some of us. I can only speak for myself that I often feel, if someone makes a decent point, but it's something I don't want to agree with, it hurts my pride, it hurts my ego. And we just need to be honest about that is basically the whole response to being met with a decent point, is that we get rage baited by it, because it's essentially a knock on our pride. It's a knock to our ego. Our lack of flexibility really hampers us because we refuse to see things from another perspective. When we see more and more people going against our line of thinking, it makes us so much angrier. If we instead put ourselves in the other person's shoes, thinking critically about why they feel a certain way and why we feel differently, we could maybe find some middle ground or even change our minds completely, which is a healthy way of doing things. I'll give you a very personal example of this. What actually makes up a large majority of the rage baiting content that I end up engaging with on Twitter is usually related to sport. Look, I'm a massive football fan. No, not this football, this football. I'm a massive Liverpool fan. and I follow the Premier League, the Champions League, and just world football all around. My Twitter feed, or football Twitter, FT for short if you're a cool kid, is a wild place filled with so many opinions that are not very well researched at all, but they are shouted so loudly on my feed, and it really gets to me. Even people who are well versed in football, such as pundits who were ex players and really know what they are talking about because they played at the highest level, will have opinions on some Liverpool players and other players just across the league that I completely disagree with. I think a lot of their opinions are unfair. They unfairly criticize a lot of these players. But when I get upset at reading their opinions, I'm exposing an issue within myself because these pundits and analysts are giving what seems to be their own opinion, right? I need to respect that. This is not rage bait content. It's the other wannabe pundits on Twitter that end up making claims just to get engagement and just piss people off for fun, which is the real culprit. And I, unfortunately, sometimes get triggered by both of these groups. So even with the knowledge that some people are intentionally rage baiting, I can't stop them from sharing their opinions, no matter how disingenuous I believe them to be, because everyone on this earth is allowed to have an opinion on things. But when it's the wrong opinion, according to us, suddenly that's a problem. If they're going to have an opinion, it needs to be the right one. That is just not how the world works. So respecting other people's opinions is a very important part of being able to engage with people on Twitter, because if you cannot respect other people's opinion, you shouldn't be surprised when people don't respect yours. Because at the end of the day, sometimes agreeing to disagree is okay. And when you can make peace with that fact that people are going to disagree with you and you are going to disagree with them, as long as we can be respectful towards each other, getting rage baited becomes incredibly difficult because you are now used to having people disagree with you, you disagreeing with other people, but it's all in this respectful way that
Isn't rage inducing.
And then when you also see the characters that are just making outlandish claims with no research behind them, you need to just realize and have the foresight to understand that, there are these people that are just looking for attention and just don't even engage with it. I know that is incredibly difficult sometimes because there are some of these characters that are so good at it. They are so good at provoking you that no matter how hard you try, it still gets under your skin. But let's not get it twisted. Some rage baiters do this with a goal in mind: provoking the masses. This is where professional rage baiters can end up making a living from rage baiting. They build their whole brand and personality around making outlandish claims, posts, videos, and statements, knowing that they are going to get a reaction from large groups of people. They themselves might not even believe what they are saying, but they know exactly what to say to get under people's skin because they know people will hold the contrary opinion. You could say what they are doing is terrible, but they are just gaming the system. They understand how people's minds work and they are using it against them for their own benefit. It's actually crazy when you think about it that way. A lot of people on Twitter don't mind being the villain in a situation. They actually prefer it because they know they have the contrary opinion to everyone else. That just means they get more attention. Their posts get more retweets and comments. Even if the comments are negative and people start arguing with them under their posts, that person is winning because their contrary opinion got your attention. It made you upset. It took time away from your day. When I realized this, I was like, damn, this is a game people are playing. I think one of the best things you can do right now is to just accept that rage baiters, not just on Twitter, but on YouTube and especially streaming platforms, aren't going anywhere anytime soon. They really aren't. But there is personal responsibility to be taken here. If you are on Twitter and engaging with sports, political, and pop culture communities, whatever it may be, it is your choice to be involved. You can't really turn around and get upset at getting rage baited or seeing people make content with the sole intention of rage baiting you. You can't really be upset about it because you decided to engage with that community. Social media apps and the communities within them are breeding ground for all kinds of characters. We just need to know that going in. By participating, you are opening yourself up or exposing yourself to these kinds of things. And you need to be prepared for that. But we all know staying away from Twitter is incredibly difficult, so you are more than likely going to get involved with some community or discussion on Twitter, whether it be directly being involved or just spectating. As I mentioned, I'm mostly involved in the sports community as well as gaming. When I realized that I'm never really going to leave these kinds of communities as they are major interests of mine and make up a big part of my life, I'm always going to be involved in some way or another. I needed to find something that could come to my aid whenever I felt myself getting upset at something that I've just seen on Twitter. You see, guys, when I realized I was falling into the trap of constantly being rage baited by certain influencers whose whole objective was to rage bait me and get my attention, what hit me was that life is short. Look, I don't mean this in a morbid way at all. I really mean it in the sense that you just don't have a lot of time in this life. When I started to ponder the shortness of life, I realized that wasting my time arguing with people on Twitter or engaging with people deliberately being contrarians is not helpful to the cause of what my life is supposed to be. For me, that means spending time with my family and friends, making YouTube videos and content that I care about, and bringing meaning to the world in the way I think I can, I guess. Engaging with rage baiters, you could say, is completely detracting from that cause. I'm not saying that you shouldn't engage with people who have different opinions than you, but what I am saying is that you should learn to spot the difference between a rage baiter and someone that is genuinely just having a different opinion than you, because they move very differently. I think I'm very vulnerable to being rage baited in the evenings. That is why like I explained in my previous video, that I would rather just stick to gaming and reading books in the evening. When your mind is tired at night, you can fall into the trap of these rage baiters. Just something that they post can get under your skin immediately and trigger a reaction, and that is what they want. It is best for me to avoid it, especially in the evenings and in the mornings. I try not to go on Twitter in the morning as well because your mind is still waking up and you are very impressionable. Seeing something from a rage baiter first thing in the morning can absolutely ruin your mood. So try to avoid Twitter in the mornings and the evenings. Keep it for the afternoons or late mornings when your mind is, sharp enough to distinguish between rage bait content and actual healthy discussions. Like I said, there are two very different things. One is healthy and the other one is just an absolute waste of time. And like I just explained, we don't have the luxury of wasting time. That time is precious and you need to use it for precious things, building your family, building your dream business, hanging out with your friends and doing meaningful things. You shouldn't use it to engage with some rage baiter on Twitter who doesn't even agree with the opinions he's putting out there just for engagement anyway. But Twitter isn't all that bad. This is not just me dunking on Twitter and urging everyone to not use it, because that is not what this video is supposed to be about. I think Twitter is a really good social media platform as well. To be honest, I feel like it's the best out of the lot. It's where I get all my news from. I do not even go onto the TV anymore to go find news or radio stations. I get everything from Twitter, including my sporting news, pop culture updates. It really does hold an important place in our world because it's just a quicker way to get valuable information. What I'm saying is just be cautious of the characters you engage with on Twitter. There are people out there whose only goal is to make you upset to drive engagement for themselves. When you learn how to navigate and avoid that, you'll be on the road to not being rage baited every time you open Twitter. So that is going to do it for today's video, guys. If you would like to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee. The link is in the description. I really appreciate all the support recently. We are getting more views and subscribers, and I'm just really happy about that. If you want to watch how I cut down my doom scrolling in the evenings, you can just watch this video that's on the right-hand corner of your screen, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.